Bad lawyer jokes are an old genre, but if you're a consumer, finding a client-focused practice is serious. If you're an attorney, understanding today's ethical duty of care is critical. Anchored by current headlines and showcasing major legal minds, Ethical-ish speaks to consumers and attorneys about the modern, transparent law practice. Sponsored by Case Status, powered by LawPods.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ethical-ish. Excited to bring another episode of this provocative podcast to the audience out there. I'm your host, Paul Bamert, excited to be in a discussion here with our friend Mike Shea. Mike's joining us from SGP Advisors. Mike, if you want to say hello, welcome to Ethical-ish.
Hey, good morning. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you having me.
No, love having you. And I love the topic today. So Mike, you and I had the, fate of crossing paths recently. And I won't go into the details of that, but I've loved it because we're coming at two different sides of the same topic. And that topic is cybersecurity for law firms. So there's a reason that Case Status is passionate about this and our leadership is passionate about this. But there are lots of different angles to come at it. And you're coming at it from kind of an insurance standpoint, correct, Mike? So maybe give a quick introduction of who you are and who SGP Advisors are.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Paul. So SGP Advisors is a boutique insurance brokerage. We're based out of Florida, but we have a national practice. We work exclusively in the law firm sector. Our roots date back, really back to 1995 when our now retired co-founder had left the law firm arena on the business side and gotten into the insurance space. And from there, we've just taken off to now represent in excess of probably 3,000 law firms. Like I said, nationally, we have client experience in all 50 states and do a lot of things in the insurance space from how we assist our law firm clients, but cybersecurity, cyber liability, network security, all the different names you want to call it.
Yeah.
These days, it's all really the same thing. We just call it a bunch of different things, but it all has the same meanings, and it's scary. It is quickly, like I said, as an organization, we do a lot of different things, but cyber security and cyber discussion has really moved to the forefront of the issues that we're dealing with within our client base it started during COVID, but it's really, really fast-tracked coming out of COVID, I would say, in the last 24 months. So never really thought that we would become the cyber experts, if you will.
Yeah, it's a fun evolution. Yeah, and not to interrupt, but maybe let's take a step back, right? So for the audience, we aspire to have some everyday consumers out there. I represent that least common denominator, as I like to joke, as I'm sort of going in through my learning journey. But really, we're talking about, you guys have your foundation in just managing risk, right? Like ultimately, that's what we come down to when it comes to insurance for attorneys and for law firms, correct? Right? So
correct.
I guess maybe take us through the historical channel of that. We've evolved to cyber. We're going to go deep into cyber attacks, but is it mainly malpractice? What other areas are law firms liable?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. I mean, I think it's so from our evolution, it certainly started with malpractice. I think it's interesting when you look at malpractice, even from the medical field, very similar to the legal field. I mean, in terms of how they look at their risk exposure and what their biggest liability is. For a law firm, that's it. At least that was it. I would say up until like what we just talked about a couple years ago, every other law firm is going to buy your general liability. That's going to protect your slip and falls in your office and your workers' compensation if an employee gets injured. Obviously, have your property coverage. A lot of those are really what we defined. I mean, not to kind of pigeonhole ourselves into just providing a commodity, but the reality is those products are really commodities. A law firm or a COO or a managing partner, whoever it may be within the organization. They're not going to lie in bed awake at night because they're worried about their workers' compensation insurance. For a number of years, it was their their legal malpractice insurance. And, that still remains the biggest spend from an insurance cost standpoint. If you're looking at the commercial side, obviously you've got the healthcare and employee benefits. That's a whole nother animal when it comes to spend. But on the commercial side, the malpractice has always been the big ticket item, if you will. And that was always, like I said, always the biggest exposure. That's really changed. I mean, not to not to say it's not still a big exposure, it certainly is, but cyber is quickly becoming really not just law firms. I mean, I would say any organization. I mean, our
Oh, absolutely.
organization, your
Yeah.
organization, it's becoming our biggest risk. It impacts everybody. I mean, it has a potential to impact every single business, not just a professional service business, not just a technology business. So, that is quickly, in my opinion, in our experience, cyber is quickly surpassed really what malpractice was 5 or 10 years ago. I'd say certainly from a frequency standpoint.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into some of the stats. So, we had an episode with legal law professor Constance Anastopoulos back in February, give or take, and she cited 750,000 incidents, I want to say, against law firms. So it's not saying 750,000 law firms, but incidents against law firms since 2020. So clearly that is a big number. And to your point, it's a tapestry of what's going on everywhere else, right? Cyber criminals and bad actors, they're going after everyone, right? Law firms included. So I think you want to say your inflection point. So you have more claims, I guess, against the insurance policies coming from cyber versus malpractice in other areas that were more traditional. Is that the inflection that you've seen from the insurance side?
100%. I mean, I think if you rule out, and this is really kind of anomaly because I guess we're here in Florida and we do have a property segment to our business. So if you move that aside for what happened, in our region last fall during hurricane season, if you move that away from just a day-to-day standpoint, I would say absolutely, Paul. Even I was dealing with a client on the phone yesterday, heading to a meeting in Fort Myers that was dealing with a potential incident, and we're very careful to the terminology that we use. An incident is not a breach, and it's
well. Let's break that down for us. I don't know that the audience knows that, right? So educate those folks. What's the difference between an incident and a breach?
So it's a great question. I'm going to do my best to answer it. An incident is when you gain knowledge of something that you think could be a potential breach. It's officially a breach when there is personal identifiable information that is in your care, custody, and control that has been accessed and then disseminated out of your sort of network and your control. So, I mean, that's the difference. But the way that every state that's the other interesting thing too, that a lot of people don't realize, and they're realizing it more and more. And sometimes you don't realize it until you've gone through, a quote unquote incident, is the cyber laws and how you have to manage, the response is all regulated at a state level. So there's there's definitely some federal regulations, but it's all managed and regulated at a state level. And so that's what makes it really challenging, especially for an organization like ours and a lot of these law firms where you may be domiciled in Florida, and if you have a circumstance in Florida, the laws but you're in South Carolina as well, and you're in Georgia, North Carolina, wherever it may be, and California, that's a whole other animal. I mean, it's you could have an incident or a breach, and if it impacts 30 states, there's 30 different ways you have to respond to it, and so it's a lot to navigate, and and like everything else too, it's still evolving. The goalpost is moving every day.
Well, and I think that's where you break out of commodity and into being a true service provider, right? As SGP, you guys, I mean, it's not so much writing the policy, it's more servicing when the incidents and the breaches, take place. There's a lot to navigate there. So just to recap, I mean, the way I think about, a cyber incident is a potential issue that could lead to a breach. So all breaches are incidents, but not all incidents are breaches, right?
That's exactly right.
So, the specific type of incident that involves unauthorized access to sensitive data, as you've put it, kind of puts us into the breach land, right? Where that sensitive data is ultimately taken. Now, there's a cost to both, right? So I think that's a fun thing. In ethical-ish, what I've learned as I talk to more professionals is there's a difference between the ethics and the bar and the model rules of professional conduct. And most of the time we're talking, everybody's like, yeah, you're good there. Nobody's going to disbar you because you didn't communicate with a client. But there's a business practice that's on the line. There's a reputation that's on the line. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like you're kind of going down that path too, which is everybody mainly has insurance policies. And again, there's a lot to navigate with the different jurisdictions about how you handle an incident or a breach. But ultimately, it's your business reputation that's on the line, right? The voting of bad headlines and things like that. I mean, that to me is what I feel like you guys are getting to the root cause, which is keeping people out of the headlines, helping them on the preventative side. But I mean, how do you weigh that idea between the ethical duty of care of keeping client information confidential versus just the brand protection that you guys are bringing to bear?
Yeah, I mean, I think the brand protection is crucial. I mean, think about, and again, in an environment, let's talk specific to, let's kind of correlate this amongst the organizations that our two companies work with. So yes, you guys, the types of law firms that K-Status works with is obviously very, very defined. I mean, we're a little bit broader in the sense that it doesn't really make a difference for us. I mean, we work with transactional law firms, we work with litigation firms, plaintiff, defense, past tort, whatever it may be. Obviously, understanding your audience. So let's focus on your audience because I think that's important. I mean, look how competitive the marketplace is for personal injury and for mass tort case acquisition. Not only is it competitive, it's expensive to acquire these cases. And so when you think about the reputation, the reputational harm, and the way that firms can creatively navigate, and I don't know if manipulate's the right term, but can creatively, design their marketing strategies. I mean, we see it. I'm not going to name firms specifically, but you see it. I'm sure you see it in Charlotte on with the advertisements. I mean, firms capitalize off other firms in their industry doing something by the way they design their advertisements.
Yep.
And I think if, the business reputational piece for if you have a massive breach, I think that people would try to leverage that. And, I think we can argue both sides of it, but that's a big component. And even moving that aside, just the expense associated with having to deal with it and the time it takes away from being, just focusing on your day-to-day business.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people, that's people lose sight of that. I mean, and that's always been the case, whether it's a cyber claim, whether it's a malpractice claim. I mean, there's that, there's obviously the tangible component of yes, okay, well, we had a loss and it was $250,000. Insurance company A writes a check. Okay, that's fine. I mean, we understand that amount, but take the intangible piece. How much time did it take you away from focusing on running your business, for focusing on your marketing endeavors, from focusing on just general case management, whatever that may be, wherever that role fits within your organization?
Absolutely.
That's it. And people lose sight of that. And that's a big, I mean, I've seen it. We deal with cyber claims. I mean, really, it's a daily, I mean, I'm not going to say we're dealing with claims every single day, but I mean, we're certainly dealing with it multiple times a week. So let's just even call it once a week. I mean, I can tell you, I've had 2 or 3 cyber related incident conversations in the last 6 days or since, last Monday. That's 0 as it relates to a malpractice claim.
Yeah, definitely on the rise.
And what I'm saying too, and I realize I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but it's the amount of time it takes to work with the forensic folks, to work with the attorneys, all the calls you have to be on, all the data mining that has to get done. I mean, we've seen it firsthand. It's an incredible undertaking. And so the thought of doing that without having an insurance advisor to help you I can't imagine trying to just come up and go out and do it on your own. I mean, good luck is what I would say. And I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just being honest. We've been through it.
No, I think it's practical. And I mean, kind of bringing it back again, when I distill it down to these conversations, right? There is peace of mind. There's the commodity side, but there's the service side of, you're going to go through that and being able to have a good Sherpa through that process. But there's also the idea of prevention versus remediation, right? So, I know you guys give counsel on the the prevention side. I've worked with your team on that and sort of, but then the remediation of incident versus breach. And again, having a good guide through that process makes a big difference. So I think all of that should be taken away by our professional audience that's listening in. For our consumer audience, if you're hiring an attorney, right, you should kind of get into that and understand, feel free to ask questions in this day and age of privacy and whatnot. Have you had any breaches? It may not be, tell me about your security, but I think these are all reasonable table stakes for any firm to have. And for the most part, Mike, I mean, you think most folks carry this type of insurance in general out there in the legal space, or is there still some greenfield opportunity that you and your cohort of providers are trying to break into? Are there people that are just out there like, it's not a big deal, I'll just wait till I have a breach?
Yeah, well, that's a terrible way to look at it. But I mean, I'm not saying people don't. I think people, and that's not specific to law firms. I think that's specific just business in general.
Yeah,
there definitely is. I mean, it amazes me. I mean, I think where we've seen the evolution of the product and the procurement of the product is well, first and foremost, it's been around a long time. I mean, I think a lot of people think that this thing just got conjured up because of COVID or whatever it may be, and everybody working remotely and everything, technology advancements, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think from what I know from a history standpoint, I mean, I think the first cyber policy was actually underwritten out of Lloyd's of London, like in the late 90s, early. So it's been around a long time.
Yeah.
Yes, it's evolved, and it's evolved rapidly from a coverage, what it covers, how it covers things, and how much it costs. But where we've seen it evolve from at least from our client experience, is it started out where, let's say you were doing work for a big institutional client. Those clients, because of how information was traded and transferred, those clients started to require it. So that's where it started. Then I think the other piece is, and we'll talk law firm specific because that's potentially most of our audience here. You read about XYZ law firm had a breach. Like, okay, well, maybe we should probably look into this ourselves. Or, you're sitting around and you might be out playing golf with your buddy, and your buddy talks about, the circumstance that they went through. Like, yeah. So that's really how we've started to see it progress. But to answer your question, yes. I mean, there's still, I'd be willing to bet that the number of folks that buy this insurance product is overall, from just a pure business standpoint, regardless of industry, I bet you it's half. If I had to guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think about. And, I think there's a big misnomer, especially, and I think law firms and lawyers tend to think about this depending on the practices they're in. And I think it's valid to an extent, is that, it doesn't cover anything. And I think that's inaccurate. Yes, is there circumstances where something's not going to be covered? Yeah, of course, but that's every insurance product.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of how it is. But I can tell you, we've seen firsthand. I mean, we've been through multiple 7-figure losses with various clients of all shapes and sizes and different practice areas and different jurisdictions and all across the country. And tell you what, I mean, there's a lot of value in the product. And I mean, you look at the cost of what it is, yes, it's gotten more expensive, but the premium is far less than, what you would have to do if you went out and had to deal with it on your own. And I think the premium, the coverage is one thing, but the resources where we help provide our clients, the forensic team, the law firm team, the restoration team. I mean, the whole ecosystem of folks that you have to have involved to respond quickly, and how to navigate, dealing with the state and, or whatever state you're in, or if you're in multiple states. And, again, going back to that incident versus breach is, okay, so information was found. Well, maybe it was just, Paul Bamert, and maybe it was just your address. Well, if that's the case, that's,
already out there.
That's already out there. So you don't have to go out and spin. So we wouldn't have to say, hey, Paul, here's your letter. We're going to provide notification, and credit monitoring for you. That's not considered, personal identifiable information. Now, if it went further on and had your social and had maybe some credit card information or whatever it may be, then that changes it. So, so a lot of people look at it as like, well, I have, 5,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 people's contact. The difference is, yeah, I mean, you got to understand what constitutes, ultimate breach and where the state would require you to provide a notification. And again, I mean, having the resources that all these companies have, that's the true value in the policy. I mean, you can get into the liability, and obviously there's potential for state fines and penalties, and obviously they'll pay for the notification costs and the potential ransomware attack where you got to go. I mean, we went through one of those scenarios where they want it in Bitcoin.
Oh, heck yeah. You gotta play into cyber currency to get the data back. Absolutely.
Right. And your everyday person doesn't know how to go out and procure some Bitcoin to pay off some bad actor and God knows where. So
yeah. I mean, it is interesting. I mean, you're in the insurance business. We have an angle to case status that is kind of that hedge the risk, right? Because what we're trying to do is get people off of the two riskiest forms of communication where all these hacks are happening, email and text. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, it's hard. So back to your 50 percentile, I'm not surprised, right? And that's why we have this conversation that hopefully people will have a little bit of a wake up moment to say, you know what, these threats are real, and I can take some preventative action, but I can also take some remediation and protection action and ultimately, get away from these bad nightmares, monetarily, distractions, all of the above. So I think it's very interesting, the line of work. And again, that inflection point away from malpractice idea of ethical-ish, right? And into the business reality of monetary opportunity costs and impact. So this is a very interesting conversation if folks that are listening, kind of to land the plane a little bit on the topic, if they aren't familiar with you, or if they're working with other folks, I do have one more question that I was thinking about. So let's say they do work with a case status, right? And they are moving off of email, moving off of text, moving to a SaaS, a SOC 2 Type 2 compliant solution, and everything's going through an encrypted channel. Is it like daytime running lights on my car where USAA is going to give me a little bit of a safety benefit and my premium's going to be impacted there? Are there benefits to just the premium side of doing good things on the preventative side, I guess is the question.
There definitely is. I think we talked about this. There's your sort of this goes back to what I was talking about the evolution of the product. It's, a couple years ago, if you didn't have MFA, for everybody else out there, I guess, multi-factor authentication.
Yeah.
Then you might pay, maybe it's 10%, more than your neighbor down the street if they had MFA. Now, if you don't have MFA, you're not getting insurance. And that's quickly transitioned in a couple years. So to answer your question, Paul, yes. And sometimes that also requires, it may not be a check the box kind of application question, but it's definitely a disclosure circumstance. And again, it comes back to whoever you're working with to go out and share that information as part of the due diligence process. Because yes, there should be some credits involved with having that encryption protection. And I think even more importantly is, okay, so it saves you a little bit of premium dollars. The average law firm, honestly, for a cyber policy, is not spending a ton of money for a pretty good amount of coverage. So doesn't move the needle per se, but it's still some credits that should be available. But I think more importantly is what it does in utilizing, y'all's technology is it positions you so much better to prevent from having a claim.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that's what really matters. That goes back to all the stuff that we're talking about is reputational, harm and then the intangible costs and then the tangible costs. So you will save a little bit on your premium, but most importantly, you're positioning yourself from a risk mitigation standpoint from preventing, like you said, where most of these incidents occur. They come through it, and it's now text. I mean, that's really seems like that's just evolved, but just email. And let's say everybody communicates off email. That's where 99% of claims are coming through some sort of email incident.
Yeah. The phishing, the clicks. I mean, again, it's not, and the employees that are suckered into it, right? They're not trying to to do anything bad. It just ends up happening. And we've definitely seen the case studies where the email's coming from the client of all places, right? So like getting them off of email. So, well, back to my pilot metaphor, that would have been called a missed approach on the landing the plane, because I forgot that I didn't have my landing gear down. So we went around the pattern and we're coming back in. So it was a good conversation, Mike, just a sort of hors d'oeuvre of what to discuss. But if folks out there want to learn a little bit more about SGP Advisors, what's your advice there? Just check out your website or anything else?
Yeah, I think go to our website. That'd be great. It says a lot about who we are and what we do. Again, I mean, for the law firm sector, I mean, this is where we live and breathe. I mean, this is what we've been doing for, this is our identity. This is where our experience has been for the last 30 years. But our website should give you enough information about us. But really, I mean, I encourage everybody that lists this is look under the hood. I mean, and we'd be happy to do a review, regardless of who you work with. We tell that to our clients all the time. I mean, through all our collective injury board relationship that we both share. I mean, what a great organization that is. We kind of offer that. I mean, we work with a lot of different associations, and really it's a value add. Say, look, send us what you have. We'll take a look at it. If it's great, we'll tell you it's great. If there's areas for remediation, these are what we recommend. And if you want to do it with us, that's great. But if not, we understand that too. I mean, at the end of the day, we're just trying to add value and build our reputation, and just by doing the right thing.
Yeah, well, I think your reputation precedes you from the folks that I've talked to. So again, awesome mission and work that you guys are doing in the legal tech space. I think we're all trying to up level, get away from the old status quo way of dealing with technology, dealing with those pains. Let's up level. Let's become more secure. Let's become more client centric and more modern. So, Mike, appreciate you spending the time today. Look forward to seeing you guys out on the road and on the virtual circuit as well.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks a lot. I really like what you guys are doing too, Paul. Look forward to continuing this relationship. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, loved it. Yeah, and thank you for listening to another episode of Ethical-ish. If you like what you hear, check us out, like us on whatever platform you're using, and keep in tune for another provocative topic and episode coming your way. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.
Lawyers and legal consumers, you are our audience and our biggest strength. If you find Ethical-ish a good investment of your time, please spread the word. Until next time. Sponsored by Case Status, powered by LawPods.